Professor, thanks for giving us your time. It's quite clear that the NRA has hit upon the perfect excuse always insisting that it's mental health issues that kill people and not the availability of guns. It's a perfect excuse because it can't be proven either way, can it?
Well, we know that mental health issues do come into play when it comes to at least some of these shooters. But here's the thing. Why do you allow, assuming these people, these shooters do have mental health problems, why do you make it so easy for them to obtain guns? Mental health problems in America are not very much different from those of citizens of other nations. The difference is easy access to prolific guns. So while the idea of helping people with mental health problems is commendable, it simply takes you back to the question of why you allow the easy intersection between people who may or may not have mental health problems and easy access to guns.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of throws the problem into a different court almost, and making it incumbent upon possibly the medical profession to make a judgment about a person's mental health before they might be able to buy a gun, rather than looking at the issue of the availability of the gun itself. Whatever happened to that idea that President Bill Clinton had all those years ago, that there should be a cooling off period? If a customer goes into a shop and says, I want to buy a gun, they can fill out all the forms, but they'd need to wait a few days, because Bill Clinton was saying basic human nature is that if you're really angry with someone and you have a gun immediately available, you might use it, but if you wait a few days, you might realize that you're not angry enough to kill somebody.
Yes, that's an interesting point. In 1993, when Congress passed and President Clinton signed the Brady Bill, which was the one that established uniform nationwide background checks for gun purchases, and it also included a waiting period. I think it was 5 days. But the way the legislation was written, and here the NRA had important influence, they phased out the waiting period after 5 years to replace it with an instant background check system. And unfortunately, that defeated the very purpose of a waiting period as you described it, which is that people do buy guns in anger and do act in anger. And if you have the cushion of a waiting period, it helps diffuse that. And it also might allow law enforcement to intervene if there's somebody who plans to do something bad but has to wait several days to get the gun. So eliminating the waiting period at the federal level was, in essence, a political give back to the NRA and the gun lobby. A few states have waiting periods. New York State does, for one, but most states do not.
Is the NRA also hiding behind the Constitution? Many people, and I know a lot of Americans get upset about this, but many people around the world see these events happening and they think, America, grow up. Come on. The Constitution was written for a nascent nation when the threats were completely different. And yet the Constitution and the Second Amendment is repeated incessantly as a way for the NRA to justify the amount of money that is in that business, which many people say is a business of death. The guns are for killing.
Yes, and the further irony about that is that the Second Amendment, in its full text, says quite simply that a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. And gun rights people like to quote the second part of the sentence, but not the first part. And historically, what the Second Amendment was actually about was about arming militia-eligible men early in our country's history, because militias were relied on for military defense. It had nothing to do with the idea of an average civilian getting a gun to protect their home from burglars, for example. It's only been since 2008 when the United States Supreme Court decided for the first time in history that it did protect a right of average people to have guns for self-defense in the home, that it took that legal turn. But to say that you have a right to do something that's protected in the Constitution is of such symbolic importance that gun rights people for decades and decades have invoked the Second Amendment, just as you say, to say, well, look, the Constitution protects it. I'm being patriotic by getting guns because it's in the Constitution. And that really bears no relationship to what that amendment actually said. Unfortunately, I think our Supreme Court may be poised within the next month or so to actually expand the legal definition of the Second Amendment right to bear arms in a way that could be not good for America with its fascination with guns, or at least with some Americans' fascination with guns.
Professor Robert Spitzer, so interesting to hear your analysis. Thank you so much indeed.